Hello everybody and welcome back. Today I am releasing Minx, which is a drink bottle holder. It's pretty quick. I just timed the video. It took me half an hour, even when I had like a struggle with my little fancy tool that I'll show you later. But it comes in two sizes. This is the small, so this fits my half-liter drink bottle that I use, which is like a metal one. And the large, I've got a Decor 1 litre in, otherwise it fits like the 750, 850 ml bottles. So depending on what size would be dependent on which one you want to make. The strapping is 1.5 meters. I sell it pre-cut on my website, and I will be releasing the kits for all the plastic, and the silver metal zipper will be a kit on my website as of Sunday. So if you would like to see how to make this, please stay tuned. Alrighty, so let's talk about what I'm using first, because I always forget to do this. So my inside, I'm using waterproof canvas. So if you have a bottle that sweats because you've pre-frozen it, this will be fine. It'll just kind of run off. The base, I'm just using a normal poly cotton. And then I've put this layer here is the insulated batting or wadding called Insul Bright. So it's got like metal in it, which helps to keep either things hot or cold. And then on the outside of that, this is stabilizer. So this is cut at the dotted line of the pattern. And then I'm just going to use the strapping that I sell pre-cut. This is actually one of them I took out of the cupboard. And I am going to have kits. Now, I'm still deciding whether I release them right now or on Sunday like I normally do. And then the outside, I didn't put much on it. So it's only got the poly cotton, and then I've just used Quilt basting spray. So I'm using this one. I've decided I like the Helmer better than the birch because it's, I don't know, more blasting, I guess. I like this one better. Anyway, so I just spray or spritz that on the back, and then I have just stuck them together. And that has been like that for 3 days. So it's pretty good. All right, so let's actually get started sewing. Now, if you struggle with circles, I do have a recommendation. Cut 2 pieces of stabilizer and put one on the base of the inside as well, because this will then slot perfectly in and hold your circle. You'll see what I mean soon. All right. So, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this in half, and I'm going to find the halfway point and just snip like a little bit so that I get this little kind of notch here. Then I'm going to join those two to find the other notches. So they are the 4, I guess you'd say corners, except it's a circle. And that's going to make it easier to put into the bag. I am then going to do the same with the lining. And the reason I'm doing this now is because then I can just put it aside. And so then I'm going to fold those together as well and find the opposite corners like that and that. So it just needs to be a little bit. I find that notching for me works better than just putting a clip because it can't move at any point. Alright, so I like to start with the lining because the lining is the super fast part. So we're just going to fold it in half, right sides together. And then I'm just going to stitch down the edge. Now it's a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and you need to make sure that you're doing the right seam allowance. Otherwise, this will be the wrong size to go around your circle. And we're going to back stitch at both ends and then trim off your tails. And then I'm going to squish this down and trim here. And then I'm going to put those marks together. So first mark being the seam and then the snip. And then those 4 points that I've just created here match up with the 4 points of the base. So I like to squish this seam open just because it makes less bulk on one side versus the other. And you can pretty much just finger press that open. So then I'm going to take some clips. Here's Scully. And I'm just going to start at any point. It doesn't really matter which one you pick. And I'm going to put the circle on the inside and then clip that point there. And then I'm just going to, I know normally I'd put 3 clips, but I'm actually just then going to do the opposite side at the opposite clip. And I'm making sure all the clips are facing the circle. These are all things to help you ease this in better or quicker. And then I'm going to do the side points as well. So now it looks like this. Doesn't look like much. You've got a lot of gaping, but just bear with me a second. So now I'm going to put my thumbs against the rest of that and slot it down until it all lines up. And I put 2 clips per interval. Now this may seem like a lot of clips, but this is my tried and true method. And it all lines up. Now if you've got a piece of stabilizer on the bottom, you pretty much just slot it perfectly in and then clip around, and that will also help your cords. So it's going to have some gaping on the, like in the clips, but so long as it's smooth at the end of the clips, because these clips are 1/2 inch, for anybody that didn't know that. So long as you've got it right near the edge, you'll be fine. So now I've got this, and I know that still doesn't look glorious, but just bear with me. So I'm going to make sure my tails are behind me. I'm going to take off just 1 clip. I might put this here, move my scissors, there we go. And I'm going to put this under at 1/2 inch, like this, and then I'm going to stitch. And so I'm lifting this up as the 3D object. This is the big trick to curves. So I'm always I'm kind of feeding it in vertically, not sideways. So I'm bringing it around. Now with curves, sometimes it might get a little bit tricky and you may have to readjust. But generally speaking, you should just be able to, I'm just pushing that down, not around. I know it looks like I'm doing around, but I'm actually pushing 3D top to bottom into the stitching. Like that. Oh, and I missed. I missed the last little bit. It had a fold that I wasn't paying attention to. So I'm just going to unpick that little bit like that and just redo that last, I don't know, 1/2 inch. Trim off those tails. And then you may want to trim off some of this excess as well. But if you have a look at that, it's a nice circle. But again, if you struggle with circles, put the outside stabilizer in the base as well. It's not going to harm it in any way. If anything, it's just going to make the base more solid. So then I'm going to turn this inside out. Push it all out. Look at that. Beautiful. And then I'm going to set it aside. Next up, we have our zipper pocket. So I'm going to fold this in half right sides together, and I'm going to make a nice crease there. And then I need my zipper template. So I'm using the 6-inch template. And the way I line this up is the little kind of lines here. I'm assuming that's about 1/2 inch because it works out really well for me. So I just line up those points and then center it all. And then I can just, the pen's dead. There we go. Draw around the box. Now both the large and the small are made exactly the same way. So you want to have the fabric facing right ways up, and then the side that you drew on is on the left. And then we're just going to put, so it doesn't matter if it's large or small, we do it 1 inch from the edge and you center it top and bottom. Like that. So right there. And then to hold it in place, you can just come up to this edge here and add some clips. So large and small, 1 inch along that edge. And I'm giving out measurements because this is a free pattern and it's mine. I'm allowed to do whatever I want with my own patterns. And then back stitch. So we're not going to stitch the short edges of the box because this is my new favorite thing to do. You get nicer corners. But we are going to back stitch at the start and the end of everywhere. And you want to snip that little jump stitch as well, so it's not in your way. And we're going to snip it at the back as well, and then you can take off those clips because it held it nice and straight for us. So then I'm going to snip like that in the center. And then we're still going to triangle out the corners like we normally would. There's just no end, so you just want to kind of go to the edge of the stitching. Now you want to try and get as close as you can to the stitching without actually cutting the stitching. If you do happen to accidentally snip it, just go back over and back stitch over it once or twice to re-lock in the stitches that are there. Okay. So then I'm going to, because it's waterproof canvas, I fold it over and I finger crease it on both sides because this helps for turning. Now, if you're using cotton fabric here, iron that in both directions to get that crease. So then when we push this through, it'll sit nicer. And then I can just crease that again. And because it's the waterproof canvas, it will just sit flush. If it's not sitting flush, get like a ruler or something and just score the edge. Or again, you could iron it. Whatever's going to suit you best. So, now I need some zipper tape. I don't know if I want to go light or dark. I might go light just for something different. I think the dark's too dark. So, you just need, in this instance, you need 7 inches of zipper tape. And for the large, you need 8 inches. So there's 1 inch different in the zipper pocket because the 8-inch one wouldn't fit properly on the small. And we need a zipper pull, which I just realized I forgot to put in the little bags. So I'm going to split the zip and then just slip it on left and then right. And you want to just make sure that they're even as they're going into the middle part. That is not even at all. One half didn't move with me. You could also use a zipper jig. I used mine for a little while until I realized what I was doing, and then I decided I didn't need it anymore. So it's still on my sewing machine table. It's still clamped here, but it now just holds my double-sided tape. So half, the other half. And when you look into it, you can see them line up. And then once they line up, you just want to wrap it around your finger. And I just twist it back and forth until the zipper pull goes on. That little wiggling movement really helps it to go on with quite minimal effort. So, I've got it facing me and the top's up here. And I want the zipper to close at the top. So I'm going to just lay it underneath like that with the closure at the top. And then I'm going to come to this bottom section and line up the bottom of the zipper tape because we cut it the same size. So it should all just line up. And then I'm going to start roughly in the middle. And I'm not going to back stitch, and I'm just going to stitch all the way around. You can back stitch if you want. You could start in a corner if you want. Sometimes I start in the corner and sometimes I start in the middle. I change it up just to see if I like one way more than the other. I don't really. Now that I'm getting to here, I'm right near the zipper pull. So I'm going to put my needle down, lift my foot up, and just zip it slightly past, and then continue around. Now, if you've got really soft fabric, if you want to, you can interface the fabric first with like the Hefty, which is Vilene 1050F, I believe. But you don't have to. So now this should just fold down, and because we pre-creased it, it should just fall perfectly in line with everything. Make sure your zip's working, and then we're just going to fold over this side and stitch the sides closed. We're actually going to turn this through that bottom gap, so we're going to leave it there. Which is why I love doing zipper pockets, because nobody's going to see the final stitching in the bottom corner, and everything lines up nicely. You're going to make sure you go over the zipper tape, because then that seals the edge. Trim off your tails, and then zip it open. Don't forget to zip it open. So now we're going to do the same as we did to the lining, and we're going to fold these right sides together and then stitch it shut. And we're going to back stitch at the start and the end so that nothing comes undone. You want to make sure it's the 1/2 inch. There was a lot of maths involved to get this all to fit. So make sure you do your right seam allowance. Now, if you've used a thicker fabric, if you made a vinyl one, you'll probably want to, and I don't need to, but I'll show you, you probably want to cut off the excess here and here so that it's not as bulky when we stitch. But on a cotton like this, I didn't need to do that. And then again, we're going to bring it out, clip the opposite edge like that, and then bring that snip in line with the seam, and then snip out the sides so that we can find the 4 central points. You also want to make sure you're doing this on the bottom. I did one upside down, and then I had to unpick it, obviously, which is less fun. So we're going to put it in, line up one of the points, and add a clip like this. And again, we're making them face the circle. And then we're going to pull this out, and we're going to get the opposite one and line it up with the opposite side like this. And then the sides. Now you'll start to notice, because this side's got the thick part, you'll notice that it just kind of slots in and does most of the work for you, which is awesome. So again, if you struggle with circles, put this stabilizer on your lining piece as well, and you'll have pretty much no issues, because the circle perfectly fits in. So look at that. I've only got 4 clips on, but see how the stabilizer's holding everything out? Now you can add some more clips if you need to. I'm only going to add 1 like that, and then I'm going to leave this one off so I can stitch it, because it's holding its own shape. That's the beauty of stabilizer, I guess. So under we go. We're going to stitch, we're going to back stitch, because I do not want this to come out. And you're just stitching right next to the stabilizer. You can stitch probably 1 stitch onto it if you want to, depending on if yours is an iron-on or not. If it's not an iron-on, stitch right on the edge of it so it won't move around on you. 1 stitch length is like 1/2 mil and won't affect the overall circle. I like to stitch just next to it, personally. Look at that, another perfect circle. Okay. So now we need some stuff out of here. So now I want my D-rings, and I cut 2 D-ring connectors. Now, if you didn't want to do them out of fabric and you're trying to be super fast because you need to make them in bulk, you can buy 1-inch webbing, which looks like this, but is just 1 inch instead of 1.5. And so you could just use webbing to attach your D-rings, and then like the strap and the webbing would match, and that still all works out well. For those in Australia, I got this from Vardman Threads if you want to buy it in bulk. But I've pre-cut a bunch if you don't need 10 meters, because they don't sell anything in less than 10 meters. So I've just cut it up for you, so you can just get a kit and be done. But again, if you're going to do it in bulk, you can go buy it. I think they do 50-meter rolls as well. So I suppose it just depends on what you want to be doing. So I'm going to fold both of these into the center, like this. And then if you want to, you can stitch it. I'm going to, because I think it's going to look cool. Then do one, and then chain stitch the other one straight away. And then the other side. I love chain stitching because it just is quicker. So then, the side where the fold is, we're going to put that against the back and then fold it over like this. And I'm going to do the same to this one. And then I'm going to find the center point of the top as well, so that I can correctly place these side bits. So the straps then go, actually all these points are important. So the straps are going to go, so not the back one, but the two side ones. So you can just clip that on. I'm going to actually baste them on, so I'll clip them first, and then I'm just going to quickly baste them because it'll be easier than trying to deal with it later. So I'm just basting at 1/4 inch because then that won't be seen, like the stitches won't be seen once we have added all the other parts in. Like that. So now they're in. I've only got one more bit to make. So this is going to be the cinched part. If you don't want the cinched part, you can leave this off and just put your inside in, stitch around and turn it through. I actually quite like the cinched part. So I'm going to fold it over 1/4 inch and then over 1/4 inch again. Now, I can do this by hand with this because it's the waterproof canvas, but otherwise you may want to iron it. And then I'm just going to top stitch 1/8 inch from the edge, like that. And then I'm going to do the same to the other end. So turn it over 1/4 inch. Now, if you get this slightly wrong and you do it slightly more than 1/4 inch, it actually doesn't really matter. It just leaves a little gap at the front instead of this going perfectly all the way around. But it doesn't affect how it works. So it doesn't matter. If you just want to eyeball it like I am, it still works out totally fine. I can also eyeball 1/4 inch pretty well now. So we're now going to fold wrong sides together like this. And I'm going to crease it. And then I'm going to stitch, I'm going to top stitch the bottom and baste it closed. Because it's just easier to work with one piece. So like that. And then I'm going to create a 1/2 inch channel at the top. So all I have to do for that is line it up with my 1/2 inch line. And I'm going to stitch and back stitch to lock those stitches in. And then basically I'm just doing a 1/2 inch seam allowance along the top. Now if you don't have it on the plate, just measure it with a ruler and either a friction pen or a Chaco pen. And so now that will be the channel where this stuff lives later. But we don't need it just yet. So we now want to find the back. So we're going to fold it in half And I'm going to put a clip at the back. Now that back fold is now going to line up with the back seam. So we're going to slot this in upside down. So the raw edge is going to be at the top. And I'm going to line up that clip with the back seam and clip it in place. And then I'm just going to work one side to the other. And I'm just going to add clips on to add this in. And if you've done all your maths correctly, this should line up in the center at the front. Now, if they overlap a little bit, that's fine. Or if they have a little bit of a gap, that is also fine. Both of these things work. It doesn't affect the overall thing. So like this. Then we just take this one as well, and I'm just going to shove it in like this. And I'm going to line up the back seam with the back seam, and then just add it into the clips that are already there. Oops. What have I done there? Got like a twist in it. There we go. So now I've got everything layered up. So now I'm just going to stitch 1/2 inch around the top edge. Same as we did to the base, but we just don't have that base piece in the way this time. So I'm still just bringing it down and around as a vertical 3D object because it's the easiest way to get it in. And back to the start and back stitch. Trim off those tails. And then we just reach into the pocket and pull it all out. So there's the top. Stick your hand back in, push out the bottom. Beautiful circle on the bottom as well. And so now that I've got the zipper pocket out, I'm just going to tuck in those raw edges. And then I'm going to fold it in line and crease it like that. You could also add clips if you want to. And then off we go. So I'm just going to stitch, back stitch. I'm doing an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And back stitch. Trim those tails as well. And then we just tuck that back in. Poke out your corners so it's going to sit nicely. Zipper up. And then we're going to push the lining in like that. Look at that. We're nearly done. Now, I've got a loop turner. So these are about, I don't know, $7 or $8 from Spotlight. This is what I use instead of a bodkin to get my elastic through. But if you wanted to, you could just tie this to a bobby pin and thread it through. I personally like using this. It's why I get the gadgets, to play with them all. So you want to kind of just gather it on the stick, but because it's a circle, you need to gather it close to the end so that it'll actually go all the way around, because it is a small circle and it is tight. But this does work because this is how I've made all of mine. And I can see it, it's right at the end. Come on. Okay, I've never had this much trouble. It's Murphy's Law because I'm on camera, surely. There it is. Right. So it's now on, so now I can kind of push it all the way up. And I'm just going to take the elastic and loop it into the end. And you want to leave like a little bit of excess. And then I'm just going to kind of twist and pull. No, don't do that. Like this. And the elastic's through. I know that looked a lot more complicated than a bodkin, but generally that works a lot quicker. So then I just want to pull it all the way through. Now all the kits that I'm making come with the large size of elastic, so you can just chop off the excess little bit that you don't need. So then I'm going to take my little toggle and feed both the sides through like that. You don't necessarily need it that long, but I can also just leave it there. And then I like to tie a knot of both of them together, and that will prevent it from falling off. The toggle, that is. Like that. So that's pretty much the bag done. And then we just need to do a strap. So you thread it up one side and down the other side of your strap adjuster. I cut all of these 1.5 meters. You can cut them whatever you like. And then I'm going to do the crisscross seam, just because I think it's stronger and it looks cool. Needle down, pivot, down, up, back stitch when you get back to the start, and then trim off all the tails. So then I'm going to have the join side up, and then I'm going to thread these on. Now I make sure that these clips are facing outwards. And then we go up one side again, down the other side again. And then again, make sure the clip faces outwards, thread it on, fold it over, and stitch this one up too. And you're done. It doesn't even use a full bobbin. Well, for my machine anyway. And then diagonally down. And then pivot. And then diagonally up. You can do the sides as well, but I think that's enough personally. And then you just clip it on to here. And there, and it's done. I don't know how that, there you go, 1/2 hour video. That was pretty quick. They're a great gift. I'm probably going to make a heap for the kinder teachers for the end of year gifts. But yeah, pretty quick, pretty simple, and also pretty cheap as far as materials and stuff are concerned. You need one zipper. Actually, the zipper's going to be, I'm going to have the silver zippers in with the hardware. So all you really need is the zip. The insulated batting is optional, but I like the idea that it's going to keep my stuff cold longer. And yeah, so there you go, guys. I hope this was a helpful tutorial. And if you're in my Facebook group, there is a free copy of it in the file section. If you do not have Facebook, I am going to put it on my website as well, so you can purchase it for free on the website. Cool. All right, guys. Well, I will see you next time. Bye-bye.